Shri Atirajaya Vivekananda Suraye Satchit Sukha Swarupaya Swamine Tapaharine. Dear Swami Atmashraddhanandaji, Professor Balaji, and all the old and new faces of the VSC. I am happy to see many of the old faces and equally happy to see the new faces, which speaks of the vitality of the organization, vitality of the group, that it continues to flourish, it continues to play an active role in some way in the life of the people here in IIT Madras. It feels good to be here after 2 years. I was just making a funny calculation. How long and how many times I have been coming here to VSC. So if I make a calculation, it's more than 300 times that I have spoken to VSC. So that's a great privilege for me to interact with minds as bright as yours and to learn in the process. Maybe I was a good communicator who could communicate ideas with some of our friends who came to classes, but equally so I have been a great beneficiary. Because when you are asked a question, as it would invariably happen at the end of every class, you are made to think and give the answer to the best of your ability. And the result is that knowledge grows. Somebody made an interesting comment once. Suppose you have a 100 rupee note and I have a 100 rupee note. If I give you a 100 rupee note, you have 200 rupee notes and I am having none. But that's not so with knowledge. If I have knowledge, I give knowledge to you, you also have knowledge and I also have still knowledge. Perhaps you have more knowledge and you give me some knowledge. So it's not like monetary exchange. It just increases, knowledge increases. So if I share some idea, so it is no copyright that I have shared with you. So it goes to you and it goes to more and more people later. So for 2 years, now in 2 years I have been sometimes hearing about the VSC activities, sometimes not in touch, because I was traveling for some time. I was in our ashrama in Haridwar, and then for last more than a year I have been in the Belur Math. And all of you are welcome to Belur Math. It's a national monument for all of us. It is a 120-year-old place. Started in 1898 by Swami Vivekananda, and right on the banks of Ganga. It has attracted in the earlier days, and even now it continues to attract people of eminence from all walks of life. Some names I'll mention to you. One name is Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. When he was in Calcutta, he presided over at least one meeting in Belur Math. Again in 1921, Mahatma Gandhi came to Belur Math to pay his homage to Swami Vivekananda, whose living room is there. And it is maintained as a living room, not as a museum. So what do? You have a living room, the doors are opened, window doors are opened, the floor is mopped. When you get up in the morning, if you have self-discipline of course, you set up right your room, you keep your bed clean, if you have a mosquito curtain, you lift it up, you bring some fresh flowers, all that is done every day, acknowledging Swamiji's presence there. Besides that, of course, you have got the place where his body was consigned to flame. He himself had pointed out that place. He said, when I pass away, consign my physical frame to the fire in this place. So there is this temple, a Samadhi Mandir is there. So I have been in Belur Math, and my VSC association has been helpful in carrying on the sharing of ideas with the young monks there in Belur Math, and here I am today. Actually, I was not having any scheduled visit to this place. I was to go to Mysore, but if you have to go to Mysore, how can you skip over Chennai? So that's how I am here. Tomorrow night I will be leaving for Mysore. When the thought came that I will be here and we'll have the talk here, then the discussion, what should be our subject or theme for discussion. So after much consideration, we, that is myself and Chaitanya and others, we decided that let us discuss the subject, the way to success and peace. The way to success and peace. We are all here because invariably or the other, we are interested in success. Everyone is interested in success. The moment you say success, you also have to define what is your goal or the area or the field in which you want to be successful. If you say you are successful, you have to say successful as what? Successful in what? As what or in what? Somebody may be a successful actor or a successful teacher, successful administrator, successful editor, successful whatever. There are so many ways in which human beings live, act, human activity, or the full spectrum of human activity is beyond our description. Some people may be very successful in one field and not successful in another field. Some people may be very successful and yet very unhappy, unpeaceful, if you have to use this word. So, let us first of all try to understand what is success. Now, success, we all know, we have some experience of success. For instance, you are in IIT, you are successful in breaking the entrance, and that is how you get in out of lakhs of people. A few people come here, so you are successful in that way. But what exactly is success in a larger sense? So we have to turn to the ancient Hindu thinking or Indian way of thinking which has been in existence for thousands of years. What is the ultimate goal of life that we are seeking? We all have a goal, and it is very necessary that we should have a goal in life. There are, Swami Vivekananda says, unfortunately in this world, a large section and majority of people, they just group in the darkness of no goal in life. There's no goal, no specific goal. As the life comes, let this go. They don't have anything specific to attain. Suppose you have something specific to attain, you want to reach, there are slips, there are periods of failure and the resultant feeling of unhappiness. Oh, I tried my best but I did not succeed. Swamiji says if you have an ideal, maybe that you will slip 1,000 times. But if you don't have an ideal, you will slip 10,000 times. And yet you wouldn't know that you have slipped. Because there is no goal to attain. So first thing is, let us try to understand what do we want. So let me begin with a very simple thing. We all want happiness. This happiness is defined in different ways. It comes in different ways to us. There's somebody who is pursuing his education, he is pursuing his class 10. For him, happiness means that he should go to class 11 and in good marks, and he should get into the stream into which he wants to get in. Again, his happiness is defined whether he will get into IIT or not after class 12, if he wants to come to IIT. Again, having asked that, coming to IIT, he has to further ask the question that what is it that I want? I got into the best system that is available today with us in India. Maybe something better will evolve after 50 years or 30 years, we don't know. So at the moment this is available, so having got into it, what is it that I want? So the ancient thinking was that first thing that we all want in life is happiness. Not even success. We want to be successful because it gives us happiness. We feel happy. If a sense of joy comes, a sense of achievement comes, a sense of meaning comes, all that is, to begin with, it is defined as pursuit of happiness. It may not be so in every case. Some people may not be wanting, but such was the social force on that, family factors on that they just took it. So later on they may not be in a position to find out whether they really want it or not, because they are not putting in enough effort to continue in the same line. So first thing that a man wants, the sum total of all our pursuits, is that we want happiness. Whether it is in career or in some examination or playing or learning something, through all that we are seeking happiness or pleasure. To be, let us say, a little one step down, and pleasure we are seeking. It gives a sense of doing. This in the traditional scriptures is called in search of joy or karma. The word karma often gets restricted to man's carnal desires, but actually the word karma means desire. So karma means desire for happiness. It is inbuilt in us. It means wanting happiness. If it is not so, then we might as well extend our hand on fire or step over from the second floor or get in front of a running vehicle. We don't do that because it means we want happiness. We want to be avoiding, or we want to be free from pain. Pain of any type. So this is further we find as we do the pursuit of happiness, that it is not possible to do pursuit of happiness without certain factors. So you need resources in order to pursue that, and those resources are called as artha. Kama and artha. This artha gives actually an artha to life. Artha means meaning. Artha also means money. Artha also means resources, talents. So it gives a meaning in life. So you combine these two, pursuit of happiness and resources. You have now resources. So artha and kama. These two are the first two things which a human being wants. There are total 4 things which a human being is entitled to and he searches, and that is called purushartha. Purushartha or purushakara. What a human being should try to attain through his efforts. So first thing which he wants to attain is artha and kama and artha. To put it in one word, they want to attain success. And success is defined by several things. I'm speaking from a very broad perspective. I'm not just saying success in whether I am successful in cracking exam or successful in doing certain thing. I'm just trying to understand what is the whole idea of success. So success would include wealth. I should have enough wealth to fulfill my desires, because I want to fulfill my desires. I must have power, because without that even wealth will not work. And of course there should be fame, I should be well known for that. I should be respected and well known and famous. In other words, power, position and possessions. Power, position and possessions. These three things together in a very large perspective, in a very broad way of looking at success, we seek in the first level of our evolution. So this is one of the basic things we say in our tradition, that is, man is evolving. Every human being is evolving. There are two types of maturities we have. One is the maturity that is given to us by our the very fact that we have grown up in years. Maturity of the body, maturity of the way we respond to things. That's one type of maturity. But there's another kind of maturity. And that maturity refers to the way we understand life, the way we understand ourselves. It's called psychological maturity, not just the chronological maturity. The person is 30 years old, 25 years old, 19 years old, 15 years old, so we say there's one kind of maturity. But there's another kind of maturity which is not the chronological but psychological. It's just like this. Sometimes you come across somebody who is junior to you, much junior to you in age, you find him full of wisdom. So how is it that he is so mature than me? How does he talk so much sense better than me? If you have that openness to understand. It's not always that somebody who is elder to me will only talk wisdom. Sometimes much younger person also can talk wisdom. So we wonder, how did this wisdom come to him? How did he develop this mature outlook? Or you find him not only in outlook, in his behavior. He's very controlled, he's very dignified. Then you have to learn something from him. Something is there which I don't have. And that is where the psychological maturity comes in. And this again, we believe very strongly, is not a handiwork of one life. It's a handiwork of several lives. It has been happening over several lives that I have come to this stage to have this much maturity. This life as well as previous lives. And somebody else maybe has worked harder than me in the previous life, so he has this much maturity. Otherwise, I don't know how to explain this, if I might use the word wisdom quotient. There's difference in wisdom in everybody. Somebody is so wiser than me, or in some respect I am wiser than somebody else. So we have this growth that is happening, and in our tradition we give a complete acceptance to the pursuit of happiness and pursuit of earning of money. It is said these are the two purusharthas which most of the people want to attain in life, and we fully respect that, because this is the stage through which most of us need to undergo. Till we come to a point where we begin to see the limitation of this success also. We begin to see the limitation which is there in this thing which we call as success on both artha and kama. So what is that? So as I said, it is consisting of power, it consists of position and possessions. Then you begin to see there is a limitation in this. Though it is very covetable, this is what everybody will try to have it. In society, we must have people who are successful, but it has some limitations. What are the limitations? First thing is very exclusive. By very nature, these things are exclusive. If I have the wealth, you don't have the wealth. Or you have something less than me, or something more than me. Not exact. An orphan on the street, maybe I would be what I am today. So I am grateful to my parents. I am grateful to them not only for my education, but for my body, first of all. I have this body gifted by my parents. Then you look around and see, lo, I am also grateful to my school who gave me education. And you start asking further, you start examining that I owe not only to school but to college, to teachers. Not only that, I am a part of a society Oh, the society which provides me security, which provides me education, which provides me what I have even now. Society includes everything around us. Right from, let's call the politicians, soldiers, to economists, to scientists, to everybody who is consisting of, including what we call as the menial workers. Let's say there are people who are cleaning the streets, who are peons, who are gardeners, who are workers cleaning the toilets. All of them have contributed to what I call as my personal success. There is a social aspect of my success. Suppose there is a young man who has done very well in class 12 and he gets 99%. You ask him, what is it that is most responsible? Of course, he will have a success formula. He can share it with you if he is kind enough. But if you ask him further, if he has this kind of thinking, he will begin to say, yes, I am thankful to many people, including the doctor uncle who gave me medicine whenever I was having headache or I felt sick so that I could work. I am thankful to the electricity department which gave me 24 hours electricity, which I could study at night. I am thankful to those scientists who have predicted many things, who have done so many things for us, and that is how we have this modern life. I can simply take up a cell phone and call up somebody sitting thousands of miles away and communicate or learn. I use the internet, I use NTPL lectures. I get to know from so many people the basic concepts of physics, of chemistry, of biology and whatnot. So there is a whole web of things around me. And if there is and if they all have contributed to my personal success, which I call as fame, wealth and possession, then don't I owe something to them? That is the beginning of dharma. I owe something to society. I owe something to family. I owe something to those who are my past contributors. If today I know something, it is because many have earlier known something and I have perhaps gone 2 inches better than them. And somebody will make use of the knowledge which I have and he will go another few miles. I am just a chain, one of the links in the chain. So you begin to ask, this concept gets translated into what we today call as CSR, Corporate Social Responsibility. And long back, Swami Vivekananda made this statement, I hold every man a traitor. I hold every man a traitor who, having been educated at the cost of others, pays not the least heed towards them. Think of it. Along with our personal private success, we have a social fabric to fully support us. Our success is the result of that. If you become famous because there are people among whom you become famous. If there are no people to admire your Mercedes, what's the use of having a Mercedes? If there are no people to say you are wearing a good dress, what is the point in having that? I could just dress up myself as I wish to. So there is a social thing around us, and dharma is the beginning of recognition of this fact that I owe something. That's why you find many of these successful people, as you have the Microsoft chief and his wife doing whatever be the details of their work. It is because they recognize in some measure, may not be the same language, but in some measure they recognize that we are part of this world in which we are successful. Again, success should not be restricted only to mean successful in that area in which you have succeeded. There are others who are equally successful in other fields and they must be respected. You may be a very successful student in IIT or a successful scientist or a successful writer, but there are successful farmers because of whom you are able to have your food. If they were not there, You can't grow food in a computer lab. You can't be growing them digitally. You can't be repairing your house digitally. You need actual people to come and fix the tap, fix the things. So there are people who are working for us. So that dharma, the first two things, artha and kama, are called the path of pravritti marga, the path of desire. And it is given due respect in the Indian tradition. The Indian tradition doesn't say the path of desire is something criminal, unethical. They recognize that. That is how the human being begin their journey. As we grow, a time comes when we start asking a question. I hope I am not sounding too philosophical and too heavy on those who have not thought on in these lines. A time comes in the life of everyone when even you want to transcend dharma also. Why? It's not that dharma is something which will be transcended, it means it will be thrown away. Never. Dharma is the very basis of life. The life will go on. And the life always goes on through exchange, through giving and receiving. In the Rig Veda, we have this sentence, Yagyena yagyama yajanta devaha tani dharmani prathamanyasan. Giving and taking, that is called yajna. Taking and giving, this exchange, this participation. This yajna must be always kept in mind, and we must give back. We receive something from nature, 5 elements of nature give us so many things. Are we giving back something? Or are we just consuming things for our sake? This recognition is called the first dharma, prathamanyasan. This is the first dharma which everyone should follow. This is the path of desire, path of pravritti. Fine. Now you step into the path of nivritti. The first step is the path of dharma. In that, the path of dharma is to understand that there is a universal moral order and you can't actually break it. You can't go beyond that order in the sense that you break it. You go beyond in the order in the sense that you go beyond dharma in the sense that you recognize that which is beyond dharma and adharma. Let us put it this way. We begin to see the ephemeral nature of everything. We begin to see, this happens in the case of very few people. Very few. And having said that this journey is a journey of several lives, so the first part, the pravritti part, it is the journey which is a very long journey. And our tradition says, yes, let it continue, and then we wait. And we wait. A time comes when a person asks, it is said of, when a person asks even of a Shakespeare, even he asks of a Beethoven, is this all? Is this all? Or something more is there? When you start searching for something more, something ultimate, that is the beginning of the fourth thing that we want in human life. First thing we want is kama. Second thing we want is artha. Third thing, as we said, we recognize our interdependability, interconnectivity. We recognize it as dharma. Then comes the fourth thing. When you begin to ask, you begin to question the very nature of the reality of this world. Reality of the whole system around us, reality of our body, mind. And when you start that questioning, that you step into the path of what they call as liberation. It's very interesting. Once I had an occasion to address a group of students in Coimbatore several years ago, Bharatiya Vidya students. And I was mentioning this idea of liberation, or what we call in our language as moksha. And very interestingly, the students were more interested to know about that than the first three things. And they, really bombarded me with number of questions as to what is the meaning of moksha and all that, because in our culture we get to hear about it. And the same thing holds true even today. And when we ask, what is it that we are seeking ultimately? You see, this is an inbuilt thing in the human system, human body and mind, that we are not satisfied with the limited, with the finite, with that which has got a beginning and an end. We want something limitless. First of all, we want to live. Nobody wants to die. Though we know that we are going to die one day, but nobody wants to die. Of course, there are people who very unfortunately think that all doors are closed. Only one door was open, even that is also closed, so let me close my life. Very unfortunate. And unfortunate it is still more because it is said in India today, we have many young people who are doing this. Very sad. Why should anyone should think of that? There are a number of doors which are open. I was mentioning that of my engagement here with the students, and by such as with the will of Thakur, that I have a similar engagement with the IIT Kharagpur, where I go once a month, and the other monks who go and we have a lecture session. So one of the sessions, one student asked this question. When we speak of success, when we speak of things like that, we don't succeed all the time. And then a feeling of depression comes, of helplessness and hopelessness comes. So what's the way out? So the way we looked at it was this. That is, one of the reasons is that we in today's, I'm digressing from the main theme which I was describing, but let me digress. That one of the reasons why we seem to do this is the overemphasis on the study of science. The overemphasis. It's not that the science is not to be studied. The science is wonderful. Science is required. The study of science is the very invariable part of our thinking. We can't live without it. We need to have technology and we can't live without it. Today, whether it is getting you in the morning your ringtone in your mobile ringing, waking you up, or whether it's a medical checkup, or whether it's booking the tickets, or whether it is flying, everywhere there's technology. So it's not that the science, the technology is not to be used. We're only pointing out the one fact, that is, along with study of science, we must have a study of the achievements of the human brain, of the human personality in other fields, such as literature, such as history, such as what we call in the umbrella term as humanities. And I was very surprised when one of the American scholars comes, and she, an elderly lady, she was studying meditation practices in India, and she told me that I found that a large number of the people who are into the world of, let's say, software and hardware, many of them entering into very difficult mental states, and they never had any course in humanities, which is very unfortunate. We need that. We should not relegate it to something not wantable or not interested, because there you get to see not the binary view of life as you have in the science. What is the binary view? It is right or it is wrong. It is measurable or it is not measurable. It is correct or it is incorrect. Black and white. But there is something between black and white, we call it grey. And that is what study of literature, study of the human achievements in other fields gives us. To study the life of a soldier, or a very successful leader, let's say Shivaji, or let's say Guru Gobind Singh Ji, or Alexander the Great. You see how many difficulties they have faced in life. Compared to that, what difficulties we face. Compared to that, what difficulties come to us. So when you begin to study like that, your whole mental horizon opens further. We begin to see that life does not mean only binary view of life. Though it's very necessary because you're studying science, and we take up science seriously. Now coming, it is competitive. Suppose you are one of you is the director of a company, somebody else is not the director of a company. It's competitive. You have this and somebody doesn't have it, or somebody has it and you don't have it. So there is exclusiveness, there is competitiveness, and above all, most difficult to say that it is ephemeral, which means temporary. You can't take it with you. When you die, you can't take your success with you. And we don't know when death comes. In one of the Sanskrit verses, it is said, Yuvaiva dharmashila syad, kohi janati kada mrityukalu bhavishyati. Try to be virtuous right when you are young. Who knows when the time for death will suddenly knock at your door. Time, accident, or misery does not give us a notice. The death does not give us a notice. Tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock I am arriving. Or an injury is going to happen at 7 o'clock day after tomorrow. None of those things. It simply comes. So it is said, right now when you are young, yuvaiva dharmashila syat. When you are full of energy, full of enthusiasm, full of time, try to cultivate virtue. Even before I further analyze this idea of success, which I just referred to as exclusive, competitive and ephemeral, let me refer to one thing. Success is something which requires effort, and effort means determination. I will do it, I must attain it. It also means enthusiasm. I must try to attain that. There should be a sense of zest for attaining that. Not only that, I should not become depressed if I don't success in one attempt, or even two attempts, or maybe 20 attempts. If I have failed maybe 30 times, I'll try a 31st time. If I have failed the 31st time, I'll try a 32nd time. That kind of determination, that kind of steadfastness is required. It also means being active, taking action, doing, not just talking, not just giving a talk, not just feeling bad about something if it is not going our way, or feeling discouraged. In the midst of all that, a person carries on and carries on and on and on, and then he is successful. And having attained that successful, we begin to ask this question. Now I am very successful. I have got what I wanted in life. I wanted to get a job which earns a fat salary. I got what I wanted to, the dream house. I want to have a dream, let's say in case of most people, a partner and a dream family. Everything is there. A dream maybe country also, I don't know. You got everything, and then you start asking the question, is it all about life? Then you start reflecting over it and start saying, how did I become successful? Yes, I had determination, and yes, I had many things with me. I really own my success myself. But then you begin to see around you and say, no, my success is a social phenomenon. There are so many people who have contributed to my success. My parents have contributed. They put me in school. Suppose I had not parents and I was left an orphan on the street, maybe I would be what I am today. So I am grateful to my parents. I am grateful to them not only for my education, but for my body, first of all. I have this body gifted by my parents. Then you look around and say, oh, I am also grateful to my school who gave me education. And you start asking further, you start examining that I owe not only to school, but to college, to teachers. Not only that, I am a part of a society. Oh, the society which provides me security, which provides me education, which provides me what I have even now. Society includes everything around us, right from, let's call, the politicians, to soldiers, to economists, to scientists, to everybody who is consisting of, including what we call as the menial workers. Let's say there are people who are cleaning the streets, who are peons, who are gardeners, who are workers cleaning the toilets. All of them have contributed to what I call as my personal success. There is a social aspect of my success. Suppose there is a young man who has done very well in class 12 and he gets 99%. You ask him, what is it that is most responsible? Of course, he will have a success formula. He can share it with you if he is kind enough. But if you ask him further, if he has this kind of thinking, he will begin to say, yes, I am thankful to many people, including the doctor uncle who gave me medicine whenever I was having headache or I fell sick so that I could work. I am thankful to the electricity department which gave me 24 hours electricity, which I could study at night. I am thankful to those scientists who have predicted many things, who have done so many things for us, and that is how we have this modern life. I can simply take up a cell phone and call up somebody sitting thousands of miles away and communicate or learn. I use the internet, I use NTPL lectures. I get to know from so many people the basic concepts of physics, of chemistry, of biology and whatnot. So there is a whole web of things around me. And if there is and if they all have contributed to my personal success, which I call as fame, wealth and possession, then don't I owe something to them? That is the beginning of dharma. I owe something to society. I owe something to family. I owe something to those who are my past contributors. If today I know something, it is because many have earlier known something and I have perhaps gone 2 inches better than them. And somebody will make use of the knowledge which I have and he will go another few miles. I am just a chain, one of the links in the chain. So you begin to ask, this concept gets translated into what we today call as CSR, Corporate Social Responsibility. And long back, Swami Vivekananda made this statement, I hold every man a traitor. I hold every man a traitor who, having been educated at the cost of others, pays not the least heed towards them. Think of it. Along with our personal private success, we have a social fabric to fully support us. Our success is a result of that. If you become famous because there are people among whom you become famous. If there are no people to admire your Mercedes, what's the use of having a Mercedes? If there are no people to say you are wearing a good dress, what is the point in having that? I could just dress up myself as I wish to. So there is a social thing around us, and dharma is the beginning of recognition of this fact that I owe something. That's why you find many of these successful people, as you have the Microsoft chief and his wife doing whatever be the details of their work, it is because they recognize in some measure, may not in the same language, but in some measure they recognize that we are part of this world in which we are successful. Again, success should not be restricted only to mean successful in that area in which you have succeeded. There are others who are equally successful in other fields and they must be respected. You may be a very successful student in IIT or a successful scientist or a successful writer, but there are successful farmers because of whom you are able to have your food. If they were not there, you can't grow food in a computer lab. You can't be growing them digitally. You can't be repairing your house digitally. You need actual people to come and fix the tap, fix the things. So there are people who are working for us. So that dharma, the first two things, artha and kama, are called the path of pravritti marga, the path of desire. And it is given due respect in the Indian tradition. The Indian tradition doesn't say the path of desire is something criminal, unethical. They recognize that. That is how the human being begins their journey. As we grow, a time comes when we start asking a question. I hope I am not sounding too philosophical and too heavy on those who have not thought on these lines. A time comes in the life of everyone when even you want to transcend dharma also. Why? It's not that dharma is something which will be transcended, it means it will be thrown away. Never. Dharma is the very basis of life. The life will go on. And the life always goes on through exchange, through giving and receiving. In the Rig Veda, we have this sentence, Yagyena yagyama yajanta devaha tani dharmani prathamanyasan. Giving and taking, that is called yajna. Taking and giving, this exchange, this participation. This yajna must be always kept in mind, and we must give back. We receive something from nature. 5 elements of nature give us so many things. Are we giving back something? Or are we just consuming things for our sake? This recognition is called the first dharma. Prathamanyasan is the first dharma which everyone should follow. This is a path of desire, path of pravritti. Fine. Now you step into the path of nivritti. The first step is the path of dharma. In that, the path of dharma is to understand that there is a universal moral order and you can't actually break it. You can't go beyond that order in the sense that you break it. You go beyond in the order in the sense that you go beyond dharma in the sense that you recognize that which is beyond dharma and adharma. Let us put it this way. We begin to see the ephemeral nature of everything. We begin to see, this happens in the case of very few people. Very few. And having said that this journey is a journey of several lives, so the first part, the pravritti part, it is the journey which is a long, very long journey. And our tradition says, yes, let it continue, and then we wait. And we wait. A time comes when a person asks, it is said of, when a person asks even of a Shakespeare, even he asks of a Beethoven, is this all? Is this all? Or is something more is there? When you start searching for something more, something ultimate, that is the beginning of the fourth thing that we want in human life. First thing we want is kama. Second thing we want is artha. Third thing, as we said, we recognize our interdependability, interconnectivity. We recognize it as dharma. Then comes the fourth thing. When you begin to ask, you begin to question the very nature of the reality of this world. Reality of the whole system around us, reality of our body, mind. And when you start that questioning, that you step into the path of what they call as liberation. It's very interesting. Once I had an occasion to address a group of students in Coimbatore several years ago, Bharati Vidyavan students. And I was mentioning this idea of liberation, or what we call in our language as moksha. And very interestingly, the students were more interested to know about that than the first three things. and they, really bombarded me with number of questions as to what is the meaning of moksha and all that, because in our culture we get to hear about it. And the same thing holds true even today. And when we ask, what is it that we are seeking ultimately? You see, this is an inbuilt thing in the human system, human body and mind, that we are not satisfied with the limited, with the finite, with that which has got a beginning and an end. We want something limitless. First of all, we want to live. Nobody wants to die. Though we know that we are going to die one day, but nobody wants to die. Of course, there are people who very unfortunately think that all doors are closed. Only one door was open. Even that is also closed. So let me close my life. Very unfortunate. And unfortunate it is still more because it is said in India today we have many young people who are doing this. Very sad. Why should anyone should think of that? There are a number of doors which are open. I was mentioning that of my engagement here with the students, and by such as with the will of Thakur, that I have a similar engagement with the IIT Kharagpur, where I go once a month, and the other monks who go and we have a lecture session. So one of the sessions, one student asked this question. When we speak of success, when we speak of things like that, we don't succeed all the time. And then a feeling of depression comes, of helplessness and hopelessness comes. So what's the way out? So the way we looked at it was this. That is, one of the reasons is that we in today's, I'm digressing from the main theme which I was describing, but let me digress. That one of the reasons why we seem to do this is the overemphasis on the study of science. The overemphasis. It's not that the science is not to be studied. The science is wonderful. Science is required. The study of science is the very invariable part of our thinking. We can't live without it. We need to have technology and we can't live without it. Today, whether it is getting up in the morning, your ringtone in your mobile ringing, waking you up, or whether it's a medical checkup, or whether it's booking the tickets, or whether it is flying, everywhere there's technology. So it's not that the science, the technology is not to be used. We're only pointing out the one fact, that is, along with study of science, we must have a study of the achievements of the human brain, of the human personality in other fields, such as literature, such as history, such as what we call in the umbrella term as humanities. And I was very surprised when one of the American scholars comes, and she, an elderly lady, she was studying meditation practices in India, and she told me that I found that a large number of the people who are into the world of, let's say, software and hardware, many of them entering into very difficult mental states, and they never had any course in humanities, which is very unfortunate. We need that. We should not relegate it to something not wantable or not interested, because there you get to see not the binary view of life as you have in the science. What's the binary view? It is right or it is wrong. It is measurable or it is not measurable. It is correct or it is incorrect. A black and white. But there is something between black and white, we call it grey. And that is what study of literature, study of the human achievements in other fields gives us. To study the life of a soldier, or a very successful leader, let's say Shivaji, or let's say Guru Gobind Singh Ji, or Alexander the Great. You see how many difficulties they have faced in life. Compared to that, what difficulties we face. Compared to that, what difficulties come to us. So when you begin to study like that, your whole mental horizon opens further. You begin to see that life does not mean only binary view of life. Though it's very necessary because you're studying science, and we take up science seriously. Now coming ask this question: is there something higher available? I have success. I have got the power. I have got the position. I have got the other things which I thought was success. But I have certain restlessness. That is how lot people today want to go to spiritual teachers and meditate. Meditation is the one thing which is very popular because there is some lack of peace of mind. So that is our subject today. That is, we have success and peace of mind. So how do we attain that calmness of mind? How do I have inner peace? So what is it that I am looking for? So there are three things which every human being is looking for. This again is the ancient tradition of our own country. What are these three things? First thing, as we said, nobody wants to die. Nobody wants to say that I will come to non-existence. I know that I am going to exist. This is the first thing we all want. We cannot think of a time when we are not existent. In order to say that I am non-existent, I have to be present there. So I want to live. I want to somehow continue endlessly. This is called the desire for being. In Sanskrit literature, this is called Sat. What you write in English is S-A-T, Sat. Sat, of course, if you pronounce it, Sat. Second thing that we all want is that we all want to know things. The moment we become human beings, we want to know things. If we are animals, even then there is a desire, there is an expression of the desire to know. But in human beings, the desire to know is most possible and most desirable thing because it is inbuilt in us. Balaji was referring to various aspects of our VSc work, and I suddenly recalled that in neuroscience, I am not a man who has studied neuroscience scientifically or systematically, but that's what I've heard from those who have into that field. In neuroscience, it is said that man is unique. He has been gifted with certain unique gifts, and one of them is his neurological system. And that neurological system, his nervous system, is one thing which makes him look for higher things and try to have more and more knowledge. So we want to not have just little knowledge, we want to have still more knowledge, and when we turn still further, we want to know the knower. I know it, but who is this I? Not only I say that I want to study more, and then I find there is a difficulty how much I memorize, how many subjects I will study, how many YouTube videos I will see, how many books I will gather, how much you can study. There are so many books published every year. It is said that the number of books that are published every year, if you take them cover by cover, not like this, but cover by cover, you could encircle the whole earth every year. So many books are published, how much I can study? So the amount of ignorance that I have is much bigger than the amount of knowledge that I have. I may be very good, let's say, in one subject. I am speaking a bit of Sanskrit, I know a little. There is somebody who knows much more than me, and somebody else who knows better English than me, somebody who knows better science than me, and it is quite common sense to understand that. So we find knowledge in itself is a limitation. So we turn within and want to know the knower. Who is that knower who is knowing the science? Who is the knower who knows the Sanskrit? Who is the knower of everything? What is the nature of that knower? So this is the second thing we are looking for. And third thing is that we want bliss. Not this ordinary happiness that we are looking for. Why ordinary happiness? No happiness is ordinary. Everything is wonderful. But then this happiness comes and goes. If you take Rasgulla, if you are, because I am coming from Bengal now, I have to speak of Rasgulla. Possibly if you have to be here, you say Mysore Pak or something else. You enjoy Rasgulla, you have some bliss, you have some joy, but it's all within certain limits. Once the Rasgulla, fills up your stomach, then further, same Rasgulla becomes a source of unhappiness. Suppose you are filled up till this and somebody says, oh, I respect you so much, I love you so much, please take 5 Rasgullas more. I said, your love is wonderful, but I can't take Rasgulla further. It means there is some limitation in the bliss or the happiness that I am seeking in the external things. So we are looking for happiness, we are looking for being, we are looking for knowledge. And this, again, our Indian tradition says, is to be found within us, not out there, but within us. And this search within is what we call as moksha, and finding it. It is called in Sanskrit as praptasya prapti. That which you already have, you rediscover it. Just like I have this chadar here on my shoulders, and suddenly if I feel there is no chadar, then I am looking for it everywhere, and somebody says chadar is right here on your shoulder. So it is praptasya prapti. In the same way, in our life we seem to be searching for all this. Sri Ramakrishna used to say, when you think of God as there, that is ignorance. When you find God here, that is true knowledge. We are searching for outside, we have to turn within. And these 3 things are what we are searching for ultimately. And how to attain that? That's the next question. I'll not go into details of that. To attain that is what we call as yoga. Not the yoga only in terms of asanas and pranayamas and kriyas. That's the first step in yoga. There are other aspects of yoga. I hope VSC has some 2 classes on that. So we call it as the yoga of karma, yoga of jnana, yoga of meditation, and yoga of knowledge. Depending upon the 4 faculties which we have, based on that we try to attain our own inner being. So let me now come back to from where we started. We are looking for success, and success requires determination, it requires goal fixing, it requires enthusiasm, it requires not letting go, working hard. There's a first step, and we must try to attain success in whatever field we have decided to attain our success, and try to do it to the best of your ability. We need very good gardeners, and that requires that he should have all this, which in practical terms means he should have concentration, he should be orderly. See, without concentration, you can't attain success in whatever you are doing. He should be thoroughgoing, whatever he takes up, he does it thoroughly. So we begin with that level. We begin with the success at that level. And we carry it along, Along with that, we bring the consciousness of society around us who contribute to our success. Success which is fame, success which is power, success which is wealth. All that is contributed to a large extent by what we call as society, what we call as Samaj. Swami Vivekananda had a English disciple. Her name was Sister Nivedita. She was from Ireland, settled in London, and she gave her whole life to the cause of Swami Vivekananda. This is the 150th year of her birth. So it's being marked in a big way in many places. She came to Madras also and stayed in the ice house on Marina Beach. And Sister Nivedita, of course, she died very young. She was 42. Her works are there. It's in 5 volumes. And her letters over 1,000 pages. So Sister Nivedita makes a lot of reflection on what is the idea of Samaj or society. I wish some of you to just take up for a serious study. So we owe something to the Samaj, to the world, because that is responsible for what we are. whether it is our food or clothing or shelter or what we call our enjoyments, everything is because there is a samaj around us. And samaj is not only these physical things, samaj is also consisting of a culture, samaj is also consisting of a tradition, a civilization, a knowledge bank, a tradition bank, a wisdom bank that is handed over from generation to generation. And then the final thing which we said is in search of our real self. And that search, it ends only when we have nothing else to ask. In one of the Upanishads, the question is asked, Kasminnu bhagavate vijñātam sarvavidam vijñāte bhavati. Tell me that by knowing which everything else will be known. Kasminnu bhagavate vijñātam sarvavidam vijñāte bhavati. Tell me that. So that was a search there. We have this wonderful heritage coming down to us for thousands of years. But this question which we are now asking was asked thousands of years back. But what is it by getting which I will have happiness? You know, the happiness that we have otherwise, what we call as our happiness today, is a temporary phenomenon. One person was asked this question, what gives you happiness? There have been two wonderful occasions of happiness in my life. What are they? The first is when I purchased a car. That gave me tremendous happiness. And what's the second one? That's when I sold it out. Because what gave me so much of happiness was also a source of so much trouble. I had to keep a driver, I had to drive myself, I had to walk through so much of traffic, I have to look after its service and petrol and whatnot, so much expenses, so I sold my happiness. So, it's not that we are teaching something otherworldly only, that you should not become successful in this life. Very much we want successful people, but we must remember, and this is what Sri Ramakrishna, and this is what Swami Vivekananda and the whole tradition that belongs to them repeatedly brings home, and that is how to find out the ultimate goal of life and look for that. It is not that you should not look for the happiness in these matters. Please look after them. Please have your search, but do it as per within the framework of dharma, because you are a product of the dharma. You are part of the society. You are part of the nature. It's very simple. I am part of the nature, I am interconnected, I am interdependent. It's so simple. And once you recognize that, you begin to become what we have here as unselfish. To be unselfish is not just a luxury. That yes, I've got a badge here that I am unselfish. It is the very necessity of life. The more unselfish we become, the healthier we become. The more unselfish we become, the more livable we become around us. Look at the families, look at the institutions, look at the groups where highly selfish people are there. Today, if we are seeing different fields of life, we say there is so much corruption in India. It's all because of selfishness. There are few people who are highly selfish and they are willing to let go all ethical codes in order to fulfill their selfish results or desires. So, the more we begin to recognize that, the more we actually contribute to our own well-being and to others' well-being. So, before I conclude, we'll have an interaction if there is anything which you want me to say. Let me say this much, that right at the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita commentary, Acharya Shankara says that these are the two things which are there right from the beginning of the human life. He calls it as Abhyudaya Nishreyasa. Abhyudaya means material prosperity, and Nishreyasa means freedom from sorrow, freedom from bondage, freedom from limitations. These together have existed right from the beginning of the creation. And the dharma that we are used to, or which is our heritage, or which is what we are, what we should take up in life, it caters to both. It is not just otherworldly, it has the otherworldly dimension too, but it is also this worldly. It tries to give you happiness here. Swami Vivekananda said, I don't believe in a religion which promises happiness to me in the heaven, but does not take away the hunger of a hungry man or wipe the tears of a widow. In other words, it does not take away my sorrow in this life. It promises me a great happiness in the afterlife, but gives me a lot of sorrow in this life. I don't believe in that as a religion event. So we are all trying to become successful. Let us be successful, successful students, successful teachers, successful administrators, even smaller things like smaller in sense of the responsibility, successful gardeners, successful drivers, successful citizens, fine. But we must also know there is another dimension to life, and that other dimension to life is when we are in search of ultimate peace, in search of ultimate joy, ultimate satisfaction. Na vittena tarpaniyam manushya-loke, the Probationer says, through money alone you cannot attain true success, or rather true satisfaction in this life. So let us not forget that dimension, and let us try to explore that inner world, the inner world of our being, which says, I want to exist, I want to know, I want to be happy. And who is this I? Who is this, what is the meaning of knowledge, and what is the true meaning of joy? Let me search it within, let me find out the source within, and if I can find out, I attain to what we call as moksha, I attain to what we call as peace, what we call as the ultimate goal of life. This ultimate goal of life, not the relative goal of life, not the immediate goal of life. And such is the nature of life. Today or tomorrow, we are all made to search for it. It is not ultimate in an ornamental sense, but in a real sense. And I'm sure with all your inquiring intellects and your sincerity, all of you will be able to understand that and attain to that. Thank you very much.